Hello, everybody. Today's Monday, the third entrepreneur hour. So today, what I'm going to talk about is some of the startups that we're working with at MetaBronx. Some may jump on, but the idea about today's episode is to kind of start just talking about the technology opportunity during this COVID thing, and how to look at opportunities like that, and hopefully have some that are working on projects now join us and talk about those projects. So where I start to think about this COVID situation and what is going on, um, I start to see opportunities everywhere, right? So like one opportunity is in healthcare. We our last show we spoke about with Ivan what he sees being in a healthcare. He's a healthcare worker and in health insurance side. And right now, what we are seeing is that there's a whole bunch of problems with society, right? And what technology does is technology looks at problems and solves them in a more efficient manner and a more scalable manner, so it makes more money, right? So, for instance, right now, Instacart, which is the primary way people are going shopping if you're not going into a store yourself, Instacart was ahead of its time by creating its technology, and now it's reaping that reward. What happens in the next pandemic versus what we see now is going to be based on people taking what they saw now and creating technology solutions around them. So, like for instance, we're working with a few startups that are trying to do that. They're looking at situations in nursing, for instance. Nursing is going to be a big need, right? People are going to be sick. You don't want to go to the hospital. People that there's already a shortage of health workers in the hospitals. So there's startups doing that. Of course, there's live streaming, right? All these people are now figuring out. You're talking about the entire DOE now is on streaming platforms trying to figure out how to give their courses to their students. So I have an entrepreneur working on something like that. I'm going to text him right now, see if he can jump on this. But basically, what I've been seeing is there's huge opportunities, right? So how do you take advantage of a huge opportunity when you see it, right? First step is figuring out what type of people you will need to take advantage of it, right? So a lot of times you may need, let's say you're the idea person, but you're not a developer. You may need a developer. You may need a salesperson. You may need, so the three people that startup investors, and of course, it's not only about technology, but just in general, they say you need a hustler, a hacker, and a visionary, right? So visionary is the idea person, the person that can see the problem, see the solution. The hacker is the person that's going to code together the solution. And the visionary and the hustler is the person that's going to sell the solution. Sometimes there's three people in one, but most times you're going to need, you're probably not as good of a visionary or a hustler, but you're the hacker, or you're the hacker, but vice versa. So what I've been seeing and what I've been doing recently as a person that advises a bunch of startups is I've been showing them this book called The Slicing Pie. So you should check this book out. I'm going to put a link in the description. Slicing Pie basically allows you to figure out how to bring people in fairly into your idea, right? Because a lot of times what the first step is I have this great idea, so I deserve most of the pot or the pie. But what's really true about it is an idea is worth absolutely nothing. An idea is only worth what you can do with it. So you're going to need people to make your idea happen. So how do you do that in a fair way? The normal way people do it is they say, all right, let's do 50-50, right? If it's two people. If it's three people, let's do a third. What ends up happening, though, is that creates animosity, because what will end up happening is one person or two people will start doing more work than the third person or the second person. And anybody who's ever been in business has seen this. What slicing pie does well is it takes a approach of the pie is shifting over time based on what we do. So let's say today I start a company, I say it's me and you, we're 50-50. I look up in a month and I'm doing all the work. or you're doing all the work, and you look and you're like, Miguel's always on these shows, but he's not doing any work. Is that still fair for me to be 50-50? In that month, maybe not. But maybe next month I do all the work and you're on shows. And now it is even, right? So over time, this is going to start to shift around. And then let's say we got to bring in a third person. How does that affect it? Are we still 50-50? Do we take half of ours and give it to this person? No, you can't do that, because then that person owes more than you, right? So all these things, Slicing Pie has came up with a system, and it's an online software too, that tracks what you do, how many sales you make, how much money you bring in, how much time you're putting in, all kind of things. And then it starts to show you what's a fair pie based on all that. And any entrepreneur will understand, okay, I don't deserve more because this person is clearly doing more than me. So that's the first step, I believe. I believe the first step is to try to figure out how to bring in people that can help you with your idea, because a lot of this stuff, needs a lot of different expertise. And if you don't have expertise that other people do, how do you get it without paying for it, right? Because it's easy to pay, but if you have an idea right now, you say, all right, I just identified right now there's a problem during COVID that I know there's a problem even after COVID. How do I solve it? First step is I need an expert in this. You can say, all right, how much is that expert? Let's say that expert costs $100 an hour. All right, I need this person for 5 hours. I got to pay this person, woman or man, $500 right now. Do I have it? No, I don't, or yes, I do. If you have it, pay the person. Then you keep the equity. But if you don't have it, what you can do is say, look, I'm going to pick your brain for 5 hours. I'm going to pay you for it. I can't pay you right now, though. So what Slicing Pie does is says, okay, you have 5 hours of my company right now. I'm going to pay you $100 an hour, and you are one of my first investors. You're investing in my idea, right? So for 5 hours, I'm not only going to pay you 500, I'm going to pay you 1,000, because what that does is it lets the person know you're gambling on me right now, and I'm giving you better odds, right? So instead of just saying, look, I'm going to give you 500 for your 500 of hours, by saying, look, I'm going to give you $1,000 of equity in my business, whatever that's worth, by you giving me your time. So what that does is it gets you higher level people to give him time, right? Even on the hope of one day getting that $1,000, which in most startups, that's very, very tough, right? So what I think I've been able to do with Slicing Pie that I think has been the real key is, when you bring people in under that time, what you do is you don't only bring people who are experts in whatever thing you may need. You bring in investors in the same way. So you've always heard the words, ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get money twice, right? The key to getting money is getting people to buy in enough to learn about your idea and get into it. And once they get into it, they will start to understand the true opportunity, right? So if you brought in an investor, and I've done this already multiple times during COVID, I've done this. And you've seen one of the investors, Paco, on previous shows, right? If you go and you tell an investor who's specific to an industry, hey, I want to pick your brain, but I'm going to pay you for it in equity through hours. And of course, no investor, depends on where you are, right? If you go into investors and you go into investor meetings, that's different. But if you're going to investors and you just want their time, at first, if you tell them that you're willing to pay for it, how many of them are not going to take it? So if you go to an investor right now and you said, look, I don't want your money right now. I'm looking for advice. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you time. Let's say I give you 5 hours. Let's say I was going to pay you $150K a year to be on my board, whatever it is, and I give you 5 hours. But realistically, I'm going to pay you like I'm paying you $300,000. So for 5 hours, I'm going to give you $150 an hour for those 5 hours of equity in my business. For those 5 hours. While you're in there talking to them about what the company does and what it does and what you need help from them with, you're selling to them. You're showing them the idea. And what will end up happening is they'll come in and say, okay, but what happens in this situation? What happens in this situation? And you'll start explaining it, right? Then you'll get to a certain point where you say, all right, I think I'm ready to raise money. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give whoever gives me money 4 times the value of their money in my startup. So this is all in the slicing pie model. So if you give me $1,000, it's worth a $4,000 investment right now. So right now during COVID, I've been able to raise money for multiple companies this way, right? I'm bringing in experts, I'm bringing in people, and I'm telling them, look, track your time, track your sales, track your relationships, track your ideas, everything. We're tracking everything. So nobody can feel like it's unfair. If you don't track, that's not the fault of anybody else. So what happens is eventually everybody sees the true opportunity. And what I've seen happen in these multiple companies is not only do we not need as much investment, people are investing themselves. So if you see, I just spent 5 hours on a company that could be huge because it does work now, it could work later. And all this company needs is about $10,000 to start. Let's say 5,000, make the math easy. All it needs is 5,000 to start. I'm pretty well off financially. I'm not as worried about this impending doom as most people are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the investor, right? I'd rather put in the 5,000 because it's worth 20,000, right? So if you have 4, 5, 6 people and you can split that up, you can raise that money pretty easily, right? One of the biggest problems I see with startups is they believe they need $1 million out the gate, and that almost is never true. I've known many startups, and the ones that have needed that kind of capital up front is slim to none. They all believe, most of them believe they need that kind of money because they want to secure employees and make sure their salaries are good for a certain amount of time. But the truth is, the only amount of money you need is how much the software costs to create, to test your idea. So you don't need to test your entire idea, though. You can just test one part of it. So right now I'm working with a startup. You'll hear about it in a little while, not today, where they're testing an idea. They're going to test an idea. Well, we're testing an idea. And we started testing it before COVID. And we started with literally that company started with a $500 investment, right? And we tested the idea, it worked. Then we did another $500 investment test. Then now we're going to do another $5,000 to $10,000 investment test. But over time, I'm getting more buy-in from more people, bringing in more people, bringing in more people. Of course, the pie is shifting around, but it doesn't matter because an idea is only as good as the people that come in and help it. So if I told this founder, or in this one, I'm actually co-founder, helping from the very beginning. If I said, look, let's get it to the point where we can get investors, and I didn't do it the way I did, I would have needed, especially if I didn't do a lot of the skill stuff, right? If it was all paid for every single minute of work, this thing would have cost at least $50,000 to start, right? But in bringing people in and different skill sets in, I didn't have to pay that $50,000. I paid maybe 10% of that is going to be where we're at to test out the same level of idea, right? So the book Slicing Pie, what it really does well is, I believe, and what I'm doing right now is I'm having anybody who is interested in this model interested in startups and investing, read this book. Because what I'm doing is I'm having that be the middle ground where everybody understands each other. Because that's where I see the biggest hurdle is education on both sides, right? Educating an entrepreneur on how an investor thinks, and educating an investor on how an entrepreneur thinks, right? Not only in general, but that specific entrepreneur and that specific investor, right? So what happens is, if both sides understand each other's goal and how small the investment is going to take to test that, and how it all works. Not, oh, we'll figure it out later. Just do it and I'll give you money later. I'll give you equity later. No, we both understand slicing pie, right? So we're taking our time. We're both investing, right? So I'm getting something for my investment. You're getting something for your investment. And now it's much more of a level playing field about how to proceed, right? So what I've been doing is I must have had at least 20 people read this book in the last month. And so much so that I've reached out to the author. And the author has been going back and forth for me. I even had an hour-long call with him about how I'm implementing it with Meta Bronx, with the startups we're working with as Mass Ideation and Mobicentrics and all these different things that I'm working on. So the key to what I've seen is people not trusting each other with each other's time, right? Because if you say, look, I can work on this, and you'll hear investors say this a lot. You expect me to work and give you money? That's two things I'm really not interested in doing. I'm really interested in doing one, giving you money. So I'm going to pause it there, and I'm bringing on one of the Meta Bronx startups who is very interesting right now in these specific times. His company is called Saveaway, and this is Om from Saveaway. How are you, Om?
Very well, very well. Couldn't be better. It's the worst of times and the best of times, Miguel.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. So in this show, my format is I bring people on, I explain how I met them, and then I give them a chance to talk about their backgrounds, and then we talk about their business. So the first thing is how I met Om. Om came to us through our Village Capital partnership at Meta Bronx. Meta Bronx is an accelerator program we have in the Bronx where we help startups grow, and then we put young people from the communities of color as interns, paid interns in those startups. So that's what Meta Bronx does. So Om was part of a actually global competition of startups that were looking for to get to a better position for funding. And we had an application that had, I think it was about 60 applications, 60 companies came in, and Om was one of the top 6. And Om won the contest to be one of our 6 startups. So where Om is now is Om is a company with patents that has a product that's live.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure if it's me speaking and I'm hearing it, but are you on a phone or a computer?
On a computer, yeah.
All right, so maybe if you have headphones, I'm not sure, that may fix it. But
Sure, yeah, we'll try that. Thank you.
All right. So Om is working in the financial market. His background is in financial, and he created a startup that helps people save for things. It's called Saveaway. So from the way I'll explain it, Saveaway is like, it's like layaway for anything. But what Om has a patent on that is very cool is not only one person is saving, you can have multiple people that help someone save for something. So when he gets back, I'll have him explain his background and his company. But what I believe is interesting about what Om, and Om is one of the people I've had listen to read Slicing Pie, is Om is in a position to help people right now with the financial situation everyone is going through. And I think Om's background is pretty specific in him being able to help. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
All right, that's awesome. That works. So, Om, tell them about yourself. Tell them about your personal background. And then tell them about your idea.
Sure thing. Thank you for having us, Miguel, first and foremost. It's an honor and a privilege, as they say in Old English, to be part of 6 within the dozens of very promising ventures you've had. The genesis of Saveaway, the platform, and Inspirave, the organization, goes back to the simple observation that I think comes out of a couple of decades that I've spent in the intersection of retail and financial services.
Okay.
Which is the fact that people don't wake up to see and manage their money. People wake up to see their bigger goals, dreams, and aspirations fulfilled. Oftentimes, I think in the culture of conspicuous consumption that we've been, oftentimes that takes them down the slippery slope of credit, which becomes debt. So in a nutshell, that's precisely where our Save Away platform comes in. Rather than utilizing credit at the point of sale, the irony is today, if you can't afford something and you don't have credit, you don't really have another option. So what we've done is combined financial planning in that path to purchase so that the purchases that you're making are thoughtfully done with the advice and counsel of friends and family. One of the more flattering things that any journalist has said about us is, unlike the best of e-commerce platforms where you get reviews from anonymous strangers, in our Save Away platform, you get advice from friends and family who really care about you and have your best interests at heart. So you make better decisions, including what to buy, what not to buy, and then you actually save up and save more through our now patented technology to be able to fulfill those purchases by combining your own periodic inflows with support, social gifting from friends and family, and the best offer from the seller and any partnering financial institution. So you end up saving more until you have that purchase fulfilled. And the nice thing about that is the end user is a winner, the seller is a winner, and the entity that's holding the funds is also a winner. Rather than charging people punitively high interest rates and late fees, etc., here you're aligning the fulfillment of the goal with the fulfillment of the sale on the part of the partners. And it's been really great. We've had, hundreds that have used the platform, signed up.
So
we have noteworthy partners like Microsoft joining.
Is it is it saveaway.com? What's the URL?
Yeah, the URL is saveaway.net. I can even put that in the chat so that everyone can see it.
Doing it right now.
Okay.
So cool. So I guess right now, of course, we're dealing with tough times. And me, you've had this conversation at Meta Bronx. What would you say? How would you say and I know you were listed on the Forbes companies of tech startups to look for during these tough times. So talk to us about that article and how you see yourself and your startup able to help people right now.
Sure. Well, our tagline has been save for what matters. And I think
actually, before we get to that, talk about your background. Let's talk about your background first. Sure. Your path of entrepreneurship. This is the entrepreneur hour, so we want to make sure people who are like us understand the trials and tribulations and how to get through them. So start there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I'm I'm like the millions before me. I'm an immigrant myself. I came to this country with a one-way ticket to go to school at Stanford. Very fortunate to have had that opportunity. Actually, one of the reasons I went there is because they had the largest physics accelerator for doing experiments in subatomic particles. At that time, I was hoping to be a physicist, and Stanford had at the time, in 4 consecutive years.
That sounds cool.
Produce a Nobel laureate. So little did did anyone know that I would go down talk about the slippery slope into the world that I'm now in.
Of finance, right?
But I think that, go ahead.
That just reminds me of something where, right now the greatest minds are in finance instead of in science and things that actually may matter more, but it's just It's pretty interesting that I didn't even know that about you, but makes sense. Ohm went to Oxford University too, right?
Yes, I mean, that was an exchange program. I was actually, it was the very, very early days of quantum computing, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
This
wow.
was going back a couple of decades, so it's a little bit dated. So I appreciated what it meant to be in quote unquote, not just leading, but bleeding edge. And one of the things that I realized is what really mattered the most to me is the impact that the work that I did, the impact that it had in the lives of other people. So, be it on R&D or working for some of the biggest banks that I have over the last couple of decades, I realized that somewhere along the line, that ability to make an impact in the lives of those who most need it is something that I think has always been my true north. And I think the journey at Inspirave, the journey with the Save Away platform, is really about that. Look, many times, the immigrant within us all that seeks a better life and a better opportunity for the people around us are looking to do things that really push the boundaries. And despite the naysayer saying that it ain't possible, the entrepreneur within us makes it happen. And I think that is fundamental to the tenet of Inspirave, that no matter how audacious the goal is, whatever it is that you're looking to obtain for that special moment in life, whether it's your wedding, whether it's your anniversary, whether it's your graduation, and all things in between, one of our related taglines is no goal is out of reach if you set your mind to it. And with our Save Away platform, we're providing you the tools so that not in the way the Jonases did during the financial crisis, but in fact, in quite the opposite way, you're actually demonstrating the discipline and the deliberation guided by the people that care about you the most to help fulfill the goals that matter the most to you. I mean, I think that has been, I think the journey that has brought me here
So
from...
Go ahead, from what? Finish, sorry.
Well, from my humble beginnings in the, in Calcutta, in India, where I was born.
So you're originally from Calcutta, and then you went to Stanford straight, or you went to Stanford, or you went to Oxford?
I did my undergrad at Stanford, so that was my big safari to the Western hemisphere and
so at what
to the
point
West Coast.
In Stanford, is it like just everybody takes entrepreneurship, or did you shift towards that way?
I think, I was actually, as I mentioned to you, I wasn't terribly bitten by the entrepreneurship bug when I was there. I was actually looking to pursue a path in science and math. Those are the things that I majored in. So in a lot of ways, the focus that I've had in entrepreneurship, I think, has come out of, I think, the lessons that I have learned around, the way the world is not really in the best interests of everyone involved. And I think it's ever more so for people that are in the margins, people that are immigrants like myself. And I think that has, driven, I think that has been such a nagging annoyance to me over a multi-year and a multi-decade period, that I think that has spurred on, finding myself in the service of something that we think will hopefully positively impact the lives of many, to help them reach big goals and help them do in disciplined, deliberate, and sustainable ways. I think that's the dream of an immigrant. I'd like to think that's the American dream in a lot of ways as well. And that's what we're looking to make happen with this platform.
So I guess, what do you remember the point where you went from science and math to entrepreneurship?
Well, I think, look, I think one of my first gigs, I think, out of school was, looking at new product development, right? Looking at lots of organizations driving innovation, filing patents, this, that, and the other thing. And, I think there is, one of the things that I realize is that there is a fundamental difference between, innovation and invention. And I think the best way to make the future happen is to invent it. And I think that's why I've felt that, I think doing something that's truly inventive, bringing that to life, giving birth to that, making sure that it gets adoption is probably the best thing to make happen. And I think you can listen to a number of people, on the topic around how economic growth really happens. And I think a big part of that, driver of that economic growth is growth in productivity. And the big part of that driver of productivity growth is driven by new inventions that didn't exist before.
So quickly give your quick synopsis of what your product does, your elevator pitch.
Sure. Yeah, so, let's say you are, one of those people that, for any number of reasons, through this pandemic are finding yourself needing to shelter at home, work from home, and, study from home. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, you don't have a computer at home. And that's actually the case for a high proportion of households and people today. Yep. So that's precisely where our Save Away platform would come in, right? If you're looking to get a computer, a laptop, what have you, you very quickly can go into our platform. We are allowing for integration with some of the leading merchants and retailers. We have affiliate partnerships with eBay, Best Buy, Etsy, among a growing number of retailers, and we welcome other retailers to join the platform as well. And so in one fell swoop, you can actually get access to the platform, search for whatever you're looking for, invite your friends and family. They can help you make a better decision, and they can help you contribute to your financial plan. So let's say the laptop costs, $500 and you only have 100. So you put that 100 aside into a savings wallet that originates an account where you can periodically keep making deposits. Friends and family can gift into it. And the seller, if they want to provide a special bonus, or the partnering bank, if they want to provide a special bonus, they can as well. And so net, you're saving more until you've saved up enough to hit that target amount. And lo and behold, that computer is smiling at your door or your nearest store.
Okay.
And fulfills the circle.
So I leave this show open to as many entrepreneurs to come in as possible. So just in case another entrepreneur jumps in, what type of help do you feel like you need outside of the current situation you have? You said if you're a retailer, if you have something that you want to put on the platform where people can combine, save for, what else? What else is something your startup could use right now? Other than users, right? Like, of course, everybody watching should download the Save Away app or go to the saveaway.net website. What else?
Well, I think that's a big thing. I think, if everyone, I think one of the lessons that I think we're learning from this pandemic is the importance of having a cushion, right? I mean, people have talked about this as the Black Swan, if you will, but the author of the Black Swan, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, made an interesting point that this ain't a black swan at all. This is a white swan. What's the difference between a white swan and a black swan? A white swan is something that is entirely predictable and almost inevitable that something like that will happen. And we can take protective measures to ensure that we prevent white swan events. So in a lot of ways,
a white swan is something that's predictable. A black swan is something that's not predictable.
Yes, not to that same extent. It's, on a relative basis, it's not something that is easy to predict. Whereas, you know for a certain that a white swan event will happen.
So, all right, we're going into questions. Hold on, because the startup is huge, but this financial crisis affects everyone. So I've been hearing people, and since you're a finance guy, talk about the stock market and how 401ks and all this stuff is going to be affected, right? Someone actually, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Kawasaki, I forgot his name.
Richard Kawasaki, yeah.
Yeah, he basically said everyone should get out the stock market right now because over the well, it was on his show, but he had an expert who he trusts said you should get out your 401k because over the next 10 years, it's going to go down 2% a year. What kind of financial information do you think people should know and should be doing right now?
Sure. Well, I think, I think there are a lot of great experts that I think can and have commented on this. I think you ought to, if you think about the average household and individual in this country that is living and doesn't have $400 for a rainy day saved up, I think no time is as timely as this one to be able to save up and create that savings cushion for yourself. That's, of course, easier said than done, but it is certainly hoped that through the stimulus and through the incentives, the checks that some will be receiving, whether it's the $1,200 or the special dispensation that the Treasury has created for small businesses, people will get some relief. And I think it's important when you receive that to be able to, in as much as you want to thoughtfully spend it for things that are clearly essential and important, it's also important, if possible, to utilize a part of that to create a cushion or a buffer for yourself. I mean, one of the key things, and this is true of, your personal finances as much as it is true for finances of companies, as much as it's true in nature, is that the people that succeed in the longer term always have a protective buffer that they create for themselves, because that's nature's way of ensuring that that species actually doesn't become extinct. So I think that's equally applicable to us.
So you're basically saying saving right now, that stimulus check is what people should be doing?
Well, I think a part of that should be set aside to weather inevitable shocks that you might encounter. Of course, a part of that should be spent on the things that you truly need, want, and aspire to, no doubt. But I think there needs to be a balance.
That's kind of the argument me and you were having. We're having a discussion about saving right now versus not being able to save because you got to pay bills and you can't even afford to do that. But we got another entrepreneur on. We'll keep the conversation going, but I want to introduce Edwin Rogers. Edwin is a founder of Setup Remote. And the way the format works, Edwin, is I talk about how we met, then I talk about, and then you talk about your background, and then we start going into everything. So I met Edwin a few years ago speaking at
NAB.
Me and Edwin were speaking at the conference in Las Vegas, one of the biggest conferences in Las Vegas. And he was speaking about VR. I was speaking about AR, the after parties. We met and we're like, oh, we're from New York. Edwin's Dominican. I'm Puerto Rican. He came by Meta Bronx one day to check us out. That day he happened to stay that day happened to be a bunch of entrepreneurs there. Actually, AOC actually came by that day. You were there. Oh, wow. I don't know if you remember. You may have left. But there was a bunch of entrepreneurs. It was just a crazy day. A bunch of entrepreneurs came by. So Edwin now is working on a system to rival Zoom. I know it's a high pressure, but talk about your background. First of all, your background, like where you worked, your history, and then your company.
Yeah, so my background is primarily VR. I do a lot of work doing 360 video. I don't know if this is me. Maybe it's my other monitor. Let me turn that off. It's getting some weird feedback. Oh,
Yeah, a lot
sorry
of
about
times
that.
it's the microphone. Like having headphones helps. I'm
Yeah,
not sure why.
sorry about that. I know. I think it was my second monitor. It was giving me some feedback. So, okay. Yeah. So again, I do a lot of 360 video content creation. I've been doing that for many, many years. I've been working with NBC News primarily, doing 360 immersive journalism, and stuff like that. That has been my passion for a very, very long time. If you want to see some of my work, you can go to vrvideo.tv and check that kind of work out. But recently I've been working on what I'm set up remote, which is basically a way to kind of have a customizable video conference experience rather than just have like a Zoom call where all the buttons and features are all set up and you can't really change it or customize it. We want to create something where it's more customizable. So, like if you're um, teacher and you need to um, remote with your students, yeah, having a system that could take attendance or could actually have features that are clearly specific to what you need. That's what setup and remote is about, and it's I like to describe it as a video conferencing content management system, similar. So think of like Zoom and Squarespace had a baby, it'd be set up remote.
Awesome, awesome. So this show, I'm mostly trying to get information to entrepreneurs, right? So you
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, Om as an entrepreneur, I know we always need help. We always need different things, right? Right now, I know you didn't hear what Om does, but Om has a software that allows people to save for things, right? So his software he has a patent to allow multiple people to save for one item, and then that person can purchase it, right? So one thing I like to do at Meta Bronx, which is where most of the magic happens, is have multiple entrepreneurs meet each other, collaborate, and see where there are possible collaborations between them and us and other people we may know. So if you had to say what were some key things you need to get your setup remote to the next level, and Ohm, same thing, what would those be? Because not only between us three, maybe somebody in our audience could also jump in and maybe able to give some help there. So start with you, Edwin, because I think Ohm may have started saying it already. So start with
Mm-hmm.
you, and then you'll say yours again, Ohm.
Well, I mean, I think right now this business environment, this climate is um, challenging everyone, stretching everyone. Big corporations, small businesses, especially any kind of brick and mortar um, businesses, they're really struggling. Like if you think of like your local barber shop or your local um, salon or your local restaurant, obviously it's a really clear, visible um, um, struggling business right now. And I think there's so many needs. I've been really actively thinking about and trying to figure out how can us as technologists create solutions for these acute needs right now. So what I've been kind of like talking to other entrepreneurs and seeing some of the things that people need. One, first and foremost, financial assistance. Some people have, you know, very limited rainy day fund, and not a lot of people plan for, pandemic funds, right? So
Even the biggest companies in the world haven't planned for that, right?
exactly. So a pandemic, the that is something that is really, really in need. So people first, they need money, right? That's the first thing. And I think you were alluding to earlier when I heard what the federal government is doing, but how could people help other people and create services and needs for each other. I think another really important thing is knowing how to get access to grants. And
so right now
Mhm.
there's a grant that everyone applied for on Friday. You know, the whole stimulus recovery. I don't remember the exact name, but I was on the phone with an accountant, and she was telling us how to apply for that, right? So that's a thing right now everybody should be trying to get. But she said it is highly depending on payroll, so or on how you've paid people in the past.
Yeah.
So if you're a startup, that can be a little tough because you're in the point where you haven't paid anyone yet.
Yeah. So again, there's different companies have different needs and different people have different needs. I think that what I'm trying to focus on is finding solutions. So there are, I'm a technologist. I love sitting around creating new ideas, creating new projects. And there are like a lot of COVID-19 hackathons. A lot of them are targeted towards like medical needs for the medical community, like creating ventilators and masks and or connecting businesses that are in distress with people so that they know that these businesses are still open or not, that kind of thing. But I think that one of the things that is really needed is it's like a smart way to connect people with skills with people who need the skills. And so that's what I'm kind of trying to ideate around and work around, and try to figure out personally, how could I create something that would help other people and other businesses during this really like remote time. So I would love to talk to people and brainstorm about certain ideas that I personally have that I want to kind of create. But right now, what I'm thinking about is like, what if there was instead of like a crowdfunding platform where you're just like, here's money, instead you're getting something in return, like an instant service. So for example, let's say you're a barber, and I'm wearing a hat all the time because I need a haircut. Someone could walk me through how to cut my own hair. Maybe someone could show me how to cook, and then basically,
that's a good idea. Like right now, these are different ideas that remote is putting us in a situation where there's still an opportunity as a barber, right? Like if you think, damn, my shop is closed, I can't do anything. That's one thing. Or you could say, what if I start giving virtual haircuts and teach people how to do their own hair?
Yeah,
$5.
I think what virtual is a really broad term. What I'm trying to say, what I'm thinking about is, what if there is a like one-to-one lesson so that the like someone who's a restaurant, who works at a restaurant and is out of work but knows how to make amazing cocktails, could show people how to make amazing cocktails, right? That is going to be of value to lots of people. But a lot of people are struggling. They might not be able to pay. But what instead of it being like crowdfunding where it's like you're begging for money in a way, why could you just tip people like you would tip your bartender for teaching you something amazing? And so that's what I'm trying to think about. I'm trying to think about blockchain as a way of sending micro payments. So it's not even like, lots of people with creating a micro transaction might lead to a lot of benefit for the person that's broadcasting. I'm always thinking of a solution for others.
That gives me a point of interaction between the two of you, which is, microtransactions, blockchain. Oh, are you considering any of that in your platform, like with Saveaway? The whole blockchain?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think, I think we're definitely considering microtransactions. If you think about what our platform is, it's really all about micro saving. I think micro lending is well covered with the work that Mohammed Yunus did with lending with the Grameen Bank that I guess he won the Nobel Prize, among other things, for. I think what what I think there is a great opportunity around, to your point, Edwin, around people helping each other, is giving people a canvas where they can share and signal what they truly need, so that when others know about that, they can support your goals. And absolutely, I think the blockchain is a great way of doing that. It's definitely part of version 2.0 of what we have anticipated as part of our product roadmap. I think the
really
reality of go ahead.
Because I'm trying to keep it to an hour. I wanted you to show your platform. Can you show people really quickly like how it works? And then we'll try to get the last 10 minutes of you guys interacting and maybe figuring out a way of collaborating or just more understanding of what you need, where the audience and then maybe between us, we can help. So go ahead. Show
Super. Yeah, happy to do that. So here, so if I'm assuming everyone can see the screen here, correct?
Yep, everyone can see.
Okay, very, very good. So this is kind of the landing page of our app. You can search for whatever it is that you're looking for. You can, for example, in one fell swoop, just by doing a simple search, actually bring up all the things in that category. And you can go ahead and, compare it by adding it to your wish list. And this wish list is kind of the magical way for you to invite friends and family to be able to, vote and comment on it. So if I invite someone, then they would get notified, and they can then go ahead and, comment on whether, what they think about that goal. So here, I got notified, and now I can go ahead and vote on whether that particular user should or shouldn't be getting it. So
very cool, very cool. So
and then they can actually go ahead and create a plan around that chosen item. In my case, I already have a plan in motion. Choose a target date, make an initial deposit, set up recurring contributions, and lo and behold, through the power of the platform, they're actually able to save in multiple ways through their own deposit, gifting from friends and family, and the discount from the seller to be able to make the purchase.
Awesome, awesome. So that was a quick, nice tutorial about how to save. Edwin just explained his setupremote.com. What do you guys think right now is one of your biggest needs, knowing that where we are in COVID and then even after COVID, right? Like, let's say COVID is over. What is one of your big needs? So we could see if anybody in the audience or maybe even between us, we can help each other. Oh, fuck.
Oh, we just.
I exited out. Sorry, I'll get him back on.
It's
Talk about you, Edwin. Talk about you. I'll get him back on.
Well, as far as needs are concerned, my I guess my desire is to help people that are struggling with their needs. From me, marketing and getting. We're a startup. We just launched with this past month, which is there's not a lot of awareness, and so our big need is just to get people to understand and know what we have to offer. Like, it's an alternative to Zoom. It's a lot simpler, less buttons, and it's in beta right now. But yeah, you could check us out.
So you're looking for clients that are possible users of your technology, basically.
Yeah. So I mean, right now, what we're trying to create is something that is simple and integrated into your own website. So like, if you are Nike.com, I'm just making up, you could have video.nike.com. All your employees are in there having these kinds of video call conversations instead of going out to an exterior platform. Everything could be customized to your actual needs for your remote work, and that could apply to several verticals. So like, for example, you can have a conference, which is what me and you, Miguel, have been talking about for different conferences like NAB. where the video conferencing tool is set up for each exact exhibitor. Or you can have a teleremote telemedicine solution where, doctors and patients are connected, and then the doctor-patient information is set up.
So customizable video conferencing solutions to whatever industry specific makes sense. How about you? What are some of your biggest needs right now? I know users is the same idea versus Edwin needs clients, you need users. What else? I know we talked about partnerships for saving for things. Is there anything else?
Sure. Well, I think we are looking, and very much welcome, once you've had a chance to check out the platform yourself, Edwin, and everyone else that's tuning in, you're certainly welcome to become a power user. And then we want you to genuinely benefit from the platform. That's the most important thing. That's where it all starts. And then once you have, you can, whatever organization you may be associated with, whatever employer you may be working with. There are a couple of employers that have reached out to us about, potentially offering this as an employee benefit. Miguel, I know you and I have spoken about how schools may be able to harness this for extending it as a benefit for their students to buy their computer for working from home, or studying from home, taking their finals, etc. So we welcome, outreach from, schools, financial counseling centers, financial institutions, in addition to retail brands. One of the things that we are contemplating is making this as a part of ensuring many more people get benefit from it. Looking at the option of a private label version of our platform that can be available.
White label for people to use and save their own things, right?
That's correct. Yeah, for particular brands or retailers. So to Edwin's point, if people need Nike shoes for going running indoors or outdoors, this is a great platform to save up for it. So if brands such as Nike or any others, or even your local boutique down the street, is looking for, something that will allow many more people to save up, then this is a great platform, because if you think about it, it's dual pain relief. If you walk in online or in store and can't afford the item, that's not only pain for you as the buyer, but it's also pain for the seller, because you're just interested buyer that's potentially going to walk away after you put in all the effort to bring them in. So this is a great conversion tool for a lot of brands, and the entire premise here is, win-win-win. The consumer, the student, the worker gets access to something they wouldn't. The seller gets a sale and a channel and a customer they otherwise wouldn't. And so with all of our other partners. Edwin, certainly, and anyone else tuning in would welcome the opportunity to talk about how you may be able to harness this, yourself and with some of the other organizations you're working with.
So Edwin, I know we gave him some time to show his product. You have time. You have the screen.
Right now, I could show a demo of how it works. It's basically right now. If you go to setupremote.com, you can check out. It's just a way. It's just right now a landing page for enterprises that are interested in getting access, but for certain businesses, like for example, Terrific. We could set up a completely white labeled system, and you could create a room. Like I'm gonna just put test right now, and then my name, and then it's just a video conferencing platform.
I wonder if oh wow, so it's taking that's all right. I'm sure it's gonna. I thought it would break. I thought it was great
it's
because
just
it's
using
video.
it's using video for both. I know that's crazy because I'm using multiple tabs on my window. But
Sure.
then obviously people could jump into this room. We could have conversations, and everything's locked to this to this business. And we're just creating it custom for their individual business, so that they could have their own video conferencing tool that's created to them, not all the Zooms, buttons,
and right now with privacy, for instance, Zoom is kind of like taking it on the chin, right? And people are literally worried about that. So
I'm not, it's not about competition for me. It's just about a different option for people who want to try something different.
Sure. So I know we passed the hour. Is there any questions from each other, or I know we put up each other's websites, we put everybody's website up. Any final words for any other entrepreneurs that may be thinking about making the jump, especially right now? This is when most people, the economy drops and people are like, let me figure it out. And a lot of, good stories come from times like this. So any advice for entrepreneurs watching, and any final words, or anything you think of?
I just want to say, like, right now, everyone's struggling in different ways, but tomorrow's going to be better than today, because we're all working together to try to find solutions, and that's the key. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom in the media right now. That's just not fun when you're stuck in your basement or whatever. But the sun is still shining, birds are still chirping.
We're alive.
And life will continue. So like, use this time like to work hard and make the world a better place, because it's this has happened before and it will happen again. And right now it's a learning experience for this generation.
How about you, Om?
Well, I think, there is the Japanese expression of the kanji, right? Within every challenge lies an opportunity. So I think out of the ashes of, what you described as an apocalypse, Miguel, I think will rise those that will shine. And so I think, the way to find yourself and your potential, now is the time to make that happen. Find it by cultivating a network of people that you build relationships with, help them, help you, support you in the goals. Set big goals, set audacious goals, and know that there are platforms, ours among them, through the Save Away, that will help you make better decisions for yourself, share those experiences with your loved ones, and let no one or no circumstance convince you that something is out of reach. You have challenges just as in the same way everyone around you likely has as well, even though those challenges may be unique. But within us all, I think there is an inner force that, when unleashed, I think will allow us to do good for all the people around us. And if we do that, then from that will come our very own good and our own prosperity. So here's to saving for that what matters. So thank you very much, Edwin and Miguel.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming on, and thanks for watching.
You bet.
Thank you.